Hello everyone, welcome to another video in the series Everything You Need to Know About the Immortal. Today we will be looking into Yoshitsune, the legendary samurai commander, and see how good he is in the game. Personally, I don't use him as a PvP anymore, but I use him as the PvE main immortal for my mod because his skill is very good for PvE, especially against the bosses. And in this video, I'm going to show you guys how you build a boss mod with Yoshitsune as the main carry. Before we get into the stats and testing of the immortal, we have to know where we can get Yoshitsune. Yoshi is one of the probably the first immortal you're probably going to get up from the summoning hall. I think I got it very early and then I started to build him a little bit. As for PvP aspect of the game, I don't think he is that good. He can probably be decent, but people tend to not, use him in the PvP. So yeah, anyway, back to the immortal fragments. Harbor is another place you can get him, random immortal fragments as well. In the Mysterium nowadays, you have a shop there where you can obtain his fragments, and you have Market as well, where it's probably the easiest way to obtain Yoshi's immortal fragments. And of course, you need 60 immortal fragments to unlock him, and you need 960 fragments to unlock his artifact slot. Also, with the immortal specialization, you're probably gonna need another, 1 or 2,000 fragments at least. So you are looking into around like 3,000 immortal fragments totally, and that's one of the reasons why a lot of people doesn't really go for Yoshitsune as their PvP mod or the general mod. Yoshi is very strong for PvP, and that's how people are using him right now. So the reason why people are using Yoshi as a PvE mod against bosses and these spiders is because of the skill, ultimate skill. But let's look at the stats first. Physical attack, very good. Physical defense, decent. I have mine maxed without and skill on any team at the moment, but as PvE immortal, I think he's top tier, S tier for PvE, and he has high critical as well and decent energy regen. Wish it could have been better, but it's still gonna do a lot of damage with the 77 energy regen, so he can pop up quite often, or not that often, but it's decent, right? So now let's look at ultimate skill. Shoots 3 arrows in a row, with each arrow inflicting physical damage to a random enemy unit, and the target has if the target has less than 50% troops, this damage increased by 50%. So here's one of the reasons why he's very good on bosses. Yoshi, each arrow hits 410, damage percentage. Imagine if you get hit by three arrows, then it means like 1,230% if all the arrow hits. So that's very good in my opinion. And that's why a lot of people preferring Yoshi in the PvE mod, especially the free-to-play players. So here is my PvE setup with Yoshi, and it's working really good. Although I said early in this video or beginning of the video that my Yoshi is gonna be the main carry, but I did some adjustment for that. So my Alex gonna do a lot of damage, and my Yoshi gonna be secondary damage dealer. But if the target has less than 50% health or HP, Yoshi gonna pop off like crazy with his ultimate. And if you have the artifact that I will show you guys a little bit later in this video, you can gain another arrow. So altogether it becomes like 4 arrow with 410 damage percent. So it's gonna be a total of 1,600% damage altogether if all the 4 arrow hits. And my setup here is pretty good with Alex and Hippolyta, and then I personally prefer Matilda because Matilda increase energy regen for my Yoshi, so that's health and also increased damage, so gonna be very good for him. So that being said, let's actually go to some of the reports that I made earlier today because I was hitting the spider. So you can see here I did decent 50% damage, 70% damage. I think there was one time I hit 90%. Yeah, 95% right there is because of the healing of the absolute defense. That's the only reason. And you can see he's doing decent damage, but if you take a look at the later stage where the spider has less health, you see his damage increased by 7 million, which is pretty good. So that being said, let's actually go take a look at his replay so we can check his ultimate and see how it looks like. So you see here against the boss, Tirantula is only at 3%. I didn't finish it off, unfortunately, but you can see here energy regen is decent, and the arrow should be popping up right there, but we didn't see it. But you can see the animation right here, right now, when he shoots. So instead of it coming from the top, it did just come from, went straight in. But if you go on like a PvP mode against like another bosses, I think you can see that his ultimate is, from the top, that it falls down as an arrow. Let me check if I can show you guys. Let's go into the training camp and then let's see it together. If you want to use Yoshi in PvP mods, I strongly recommend you guys to use like this, and then you have Water Dragon with the physical skill that could be working well. I think personally, if you can get Margaret, I would use Margaret instead of Merlin because of the. Let's take a look against Earth, 35. Let's look at this. So I would rather, use Margaret because of the physical. So both can become physical instead of having mixed balance mod. I don't prefer that, especially with Yoshi. So now you can see the difference between Yoshi and Margaret as well. The energy regen is there, and the energy regen gonna probably right there, ultimate. Okay, so the arrow doesn't go. Before, arrow used to come up from the top, right? But it seems like they patch it, and now it just shoots straight forward, so you can't really see it. But let's see. Yeah, it has been patched, so it just shoots straight forward to the target. So yeah, that's pretty good, and that's his ultimate skill. Now let's take a look at Yoshi's artifact. Yoshi's artifact is actually pretty good, although it's just increased by 1 arrow from 3 to 4, but his stats is pretty good. You might want to prefer the Annihilations, the yellow one, the extra crit damage, because if you want to use Yoshi, you should play around crit, so the arrows can crit. If they do, they're gonna do a lot of damage. But if you have deadly like I do, that is also pretty good. It's not that bad. And I think it's doing decent damage as well, but I think if you want to play around crit with Yoshi, and that's what you should do, the Annihilation is the best one, and it's gonna do extra damage. For example, when you do the bosses, I think that's gonna help you a ton, and you're gonna do a huge damage to the spiders. So here I have Yoshi's best skills that I would have used in the boss mod and in the PvP mod. here, as a free-to-play, if you could play against the bosses, you want to use the anger, you want to use the adrenaline rush to proc his, energy regen a little bit faster. Also, if you have some other immortals to play with, I think you should be using Aura, like I did with my Yoshi. I'm gonna show you guys again later in this video. But if not, you can use the Chaotic Blade. Death Breath is also a good skill, and Fighting Master is in case, in PvP that you might get stunned, you might get, the CC. So that is, for that. As for the three skills, you have the normal combo of Blade Vortex and Executioner. I think that is very good skill for that. I think Chaos Storm is also a good shout out or an upgrade version of the Death Breath, and a Corrosive Power I think is very good here. If you can use Corrosive Power, I think that's going to be very huge for Yoshi. And the newer skill, Time to Shine, I think that's going to be very, very good as well, because that increases crit. That makes, the Annihilation Artifact passive going to be very huge for Yoshi as well. Then you're going to make from, as you can see, but from as showed earlier, I did 22 million damage on the spider. If you had all the crits, you're probably going to end up doing like 25 to 30 million at minimum. So before we end this video, again, I will show you guys my mods for the Titan Tula or Spider or bosses. I do used to farm a lot of bosses with this mod, and I only lost around like 20 soldiers with this. It can work, and if you have Earth Dragon as well with the Earth Roar skill or the skill that increase your attack speed and stun, stuff like that, it's gonna help your march a lot. And here you can see Yoshi is doing a lot of damage. Sky Feather is doing good. The crit hit. Imagine if I had the Time to Shine, it is just it will crit way more than 50% of the time. Probably gonna be like 67%, 60, 70, maybe even 80% most of the time. Let's take a look at another report here. Here is doing a lot, and see here, almost 60% of the time it is crit with his ultimate. And if Alex carry, Yoshi can be a secondary damage dealer to finish off the march. That is a very good as well. So 0.72%, pretty good. You can see here, I think this was when Tarantula was 36% HP. So yeah, I think Yoshi, if you guys want to use him, I would recommend you guys use him as, PvE specialization mod. And this mod particularly, if you don't have Matilda, you can basically use Empress Wu as well. You can use any mage. You can use Kin Emperor as well. I think this will be your, boss march that's gonna last you from early game to the late game, and it will not disappoint you. So Yoshi might not be the best PvP, immortal, but in the PvE aspect of the game, and when you want to fight bosses, you want to farm gnomes, you want to do a lot of PvE content, I think this one is one of the best immortals to get for your team. No matter if you want to flex him into, for example, Earth Yoshi, that would actually be something as well. So, but keep in mind, this is for PvE and not PvP. So I have probably repeated myself a couple of times, so you guys understand like what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I personally like Yoshi, and I would probably prefer him to be a little better so I can use him in the PvP. But since he's one of the oldest immortal in the game, so I don't think people are going to be using him anymore unless you want to fight, like I said, PvE spiders, bosses, like that. So yeah, thanks you guys for watching this video. I hope to see you guys in the next video. Have a good day. See you guys.